Fireside Tales. Hello, I'm Merlin, Mililli. Welcome to my fireside, where I tell weird tales within tales, and I drink coffee. So every week here at Fireside Tales, we discuss reincarnation. And every week I tell you about my book in the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records, or the Akasha, are, well, it's a meditative library. It's a library that you can only get to via meditation. Sort of metaphysical. It's in a different plane, I guess. So, I've been a psychic medium since I was a small child. I've been able to communicate with the spirit realm. Meditating came very easy to me. I've always believed in reincarnation, as long as I can remember, because I remembered my past lives. Sometimes it's a memory, and sometimes it's from the Akashic Records, from my book in the Akasha. It's not really a book that you read per se. I meditate, I go there, I touch the book, and I'll touch it in a specific place, like a section, and I'll see a memory from that time period, from when I was that person. I don't generally venture into anyone's books. I had one person along the way want me to go look at their book. She wanted me to look in it, but I didn't look in it. I just looked at it and reported back to her what it looked like. But even that made me feel uncomfortable. So I really don't venture outside of my book in the Akashic Records. So every week we tell the story of the Grateful Dead. I told you about my connection with the Grateful Dead in my last life, before this one, immediately before this one, in our first episode. And so if you want to know who I was, you'll have to watch our first episode. But nonetheless, I tell the story of the Grateful Dead from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It's a story about reincarnation. It's where the Grateful Dead got their name. The story existed long before the band. And I'm going to tell it to you as it was told to me by a deadhead by a fire. So here we go. Once there was a traveler. She traveled long and far, and and she came to a crowd, a curious crowd, noisy. As she approached, she saw that the crowd was gathered around a dead body. So she got a little closer to figure out what all the squabble was about, because the people were arguing over the dead body. And as she got closer, the traveler found that they were arguing over the dead man's debts and who was going to bury him and how. So the townspeople had offended the traveler so that the traveler just put a stop to all the nonsense and said, no, 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 and paid for a proper burial for the dead man, and paid the dead man's debts, and prayed over the dead man's body. And then, one day, decades later, after traveling on, the traveler, from the beginning of the story, happens upon this life or death situation in which someone comes just out of nowhere and scoops her up and saves her life. And she says, "Thank you. Who are you? Where did you come from? Why did you save my life?" And the stranger says simply, "I am the Grateful Dead." So some people think that the person at the end is a corpse or a zombie. It's neither. It's a reincarnated person. One of my goals with this show is to teach people a little something more about reincarnation. When a person is reincarnated, they live a life, they die, and then they pass on to another body. They're born into another body, a tiny baby body. The soul moves on. The body dies. And you get a new body. As I said before, I've been a medium psychic since I was a little kid. And the spirits have a theory on reincarnation in the spirit plane, and it's that the reincarnated are the murdered. So if you are murdered, you get to come back and try again. But you have to start all over. You're not a zombie or a corpse. That would be weird and gross. So the psychic medium thing has been a sort of a thread that I've discussed. I've discussed several different threads, but the psychic medium thing seems to have been a thing I've had going on for lifetimes. So in our first episode, we talked about my very last life prior to this one. And then in our second episode, I went all the way back to the beginning of my book, to my very first life. And that was in ancient Peru. And then I took you to ancient Tibet. And I discussed having been a cloud bird as a penalty for interdimensional travel. Though the angels recently told me that I shouldn't be calling it a penalty. I guess it was not necessarily a penalty. Nonetheless, angels are also another thread I seem to have, that it just reoccurs throughout every life, it seems, or nearly everyone. And from ancient Tibet, we went to ancient Egypt, ancient Sumeria twice. That's another thread where I end up exactly where I died, or born in the same place twice in a row. Then I took you to ancient Greece, and I talked about my watermark in my book. In ancient Greece, I boarded a boat, and then I believe the Great Flood happened. And I'm not sure how long I was on that boat, but it was a long, long time. And then I ended up in ancient Scotland, because ancient Scotland was the only thing sticking out of the water at that time. And then I was murdered in ancient Scotland. Then I found myself traveling interdimensionally again, and I was born in another dimension, and then I traveled to Old England, Ireland, Scotland, and the waters had receded. And then, because of the interdimensional travel, I spent what felt like 300 years as fairy queen, in which I may have been an insect. So then I found myself in ancient Byzantium, or Byzantium. The idea of Byzantium is kind of ancient itself. And Constantinople, which are the same region, different time periods. Modern day Turkey. And then I found myself in France 2 times in a row as a female, and 2 times in a row I was burned at the stake. Then I found myself in Italy twice, where I was the artist or sculptor Michelangelo. And then I found myself in Italy again, and I was Galileo. Those 2 lives were 2 of my lives that I lived as males, and they were 2 of my longest lives. So that turned out to work out better for me than being female for a while. So I was born male, but I was always an awkward male. Newton and Galileo were both awkward males. Nonetheless, I didn't even talk about Newton yet. Michelangelo and Galileo were also males. Then I found myself in England, and I was Newton. And there are just too many connections between Galileo and Newton, really, to discuss. It's as if Newton just picked up where Galileo left off. Galileo died right before Newton was born, and it was weird. Like, the whole thing is, it's too connected to not be connected. So I have these patterns that seem to connect everything, these threads that I talk about every week. And art is one of them, music, stargazing, dogs, nights with a K, uh, nature, mountains, um, math, writing, reading, Thoth, the Book of Thoth. I didn't discuss last week in our Newton episode how um, Newton uh, translated the Book of Thoth, which is an ancient Egyptian text. And his translation is still at Cambridge, I believe. But he translated the Book of Thoth. And I also have discussed my life in ancient Egypt, where I was Hatshepsut. So it's strange that she worshipped the Book of Thoth and read it, and Newton then hundreds of years later translated it. In this life, when I was a teenager and I was meditating and getting into New Age stuff, I went to this shop. It was in Fairfield, Connecticut, called The Wizard. And there was this little man, the wizard, that worked there. And I asked him if he had a copy of the Book of Thoth. And he thought it was strange, I could tell. But I got that from a meditation. I had just started meditating, and I didn't know it didn't exist, so I went in and asked for it. And the wizard at the Wizard said to me kindly, "I think that one's out of print." Because it was, and it had been, and it was basically carved into stone, and it was in ancient Egypt for a long time, and then it got stolen, and then it got moved, and then it got stolen again. I think it's still missing, so no one's really sure. What happened to it, or if it's even the original that was circulating and was translated by Newton. We're not really certain, but I would think Newton would have gone with his instincts, and his instincts would not have been to translate it if it didn't feel real. And he would know. So today I'm going to discuss a life that begins sadly, bravely, as a female in France again. But this life, this life came into this lifetime too. This particular woman that I was, born in France in about 1727, which is the year Newton died. She strangely, I discovered her in my book when I was in my 20s. And I had a friend who I was talking to about all of this on a regular basis. And I told my friend about this particular life. And this one sticks out, kind of like being burnt at the stake. There's some things that happen in our lives that just leave a mark. You know, you don't forget. This is one of those things I remembered. I didn't really need my book for. it was sort of there. So I discussed this woman that I had been with my friend in this lifetime, in my 20s, 20 some odd years ago. And I lots of fur all over the place. I have furry friends, and they're very furry. I had a piece of fur in my mouth. Excuse me. Nothing more annoying than that. Nonetheless, so my friend asked me, when I told her about this woman that I had been, who was born in France in 1727, roughly, my friend said, have you read any of Laurie Cabot's books? And I said, no. And I still haven't read any of Laurie Cabot's books. No offense, Laurie. I've watched some of your videos, and I respect you as a Wiccan woman, and I just haven't read your books. They're not readily available out here, I have to say. You should get them into some shops on the West Coast. Nonetheless, so I was born in France around 1727 as a girl to a man and a woman. My mother dies either in childbirth or when I'm very, very young. And my father raises me, and my father's a watchmaker. And when my mother dies, he's distraught and he wants to start over. So as a young girl, I think he waits until I'm about 11, and then we pack everything we have up and we move to the new world. So I get the heck out of France as a female in a hurry, it seems, which works out for me, I guess. I don't get burnt at the stake this time, though. I come close. So we sail off for the new world on a boat, my father and I, and we arrive in Salem, Massachusetts. Thus the Laurie Cabot and the almost getting burnt at the stake. So we arrive, and my father builds this building near the port, and he's going to sell watches, and we're going to make the watches in the building, and we're going to live in the building, and then we're going to sell watches in the first floor. It's a multi-story building, and it's made out of stone, and it's sturdy, and my father just gets it set up, and he dies. I'm a few years older, it takes a few years to build the building and everything, and so I'm an older teenager, and I decide to run a business, but I'm not a watchmaker, so I know how to make coffee and baked goods. So I make coffee and baked goods, and I sell them out of the watch factory that my dad built. And then I let out the rooms upstairs for rent. I rent them out to sailors and things. And I make a decent living, actually. But then the Puritans in the area kind of get their panties in a bunch, and women aren't supposed to make money, and where's your husband, and where's your father? And so I marry a man, except he's a Native American man, and we have a great partnership. It works out. The natives don't bother me, I don't bother them. We have a good relationship. I'm teaching them English and French, and they're teaching me their languages. We trade goods. It's good. Except the Puritans don't have that kind of relationship with the natives, and they don't like me. So they one day while I'm at work, they burn my house, and they hang my husband and my cat. And then they put me in jail. So essentially that's the end of the coffee house watch factory also. Only I'm pregnant with my husband's child, and this is where I come into one of Laurie Cabot's books, I guess. My name was Anne, I want to say Bouvier. It was something with a B, and it was French. And so I'm pregnant and in jail. And in 1730 something, the jails are not nice. There was a dirt floor. I didn't even have a pot to piss in, literally. And piss wasn't really the problem. It was that once there was poop in the room, I was pregnant, so it made me vomit. And then I just kept vomiting and vomiting and vomiting and vomiting at the vomit, and more vomiting and vomiting and vomiting. And I just remember just a horrifying, terrible, terrible time in that prison until they finally brought me out for my trial, where I just kept vomiting. And I said, I'm pregnant, I have a baby. And then they released me. And that's where in history I'm apparently one of the only, if not the only, woman who was jailed during the Salem witch trials that wasn't burnt at the stake or hung, that was released. And so I was released, and so I got the heck out of there, and I took a boat with some friends to a place we established as Ipswich. And I helped build Ipswich, which is down the coast a little from Salem. And there I had my daughter, who died when she was, I think, about 7. So I stayed there until my daughter passed. And then I actually came out here, right here, to where I am now, on horseback, obviously. I had connections with natives, so I found the trails fine and had enough food and water and could find the water and the food. So I came out here, and it's weird. Like, I know what this place looked like before the volcano erupted at the turn of the century, because I was here. And there's this legend up here in Mount Shasta that is about the Blue Lady ghost. And it's weird that when I meditate, I appear all dressed in blue. So I wonder if I'm not the Blue Lady. I could be her. I still sort of haunt this place. I'm here again. Still. Again. But then I made it all the way out here and I was killed by minor settler people. Not natives, because I got along with the natives. Minor settler people. Thought I was after their gold. I wasn't. So, another tradition we have here at Fireside Tales is that I sing Deja Vu every week. It's a song by David Crosby that I believe is about reincarnation. The phenomena deja vu, though, I'm not sure if that's a reincarnation thing. I think that, more so comes from our dreams. It's Christmas time. I'm gonna go with harp. Planning to do some Christmas recording today, so I've been practicing Carol of the Bells all by myself. It's really hard. Hopefully it comes out okay. I'm gonna record that today, and I wrote 12 justices for Christmas, and it's like 12 days of Christmas, but 12 justices of Christmas, because I feel we need 12 justices in our Supreme Court. It's my little prayer and plea. So check those out. They'll be out shortly. I'm recording them today. Here we go. If I had ever been here before, I would probably know just what to do. Don't you? If I had ever been here before on another time around the wheel, I would probably know just how to deal with all of you. and I feel like I've been here before. Feel like I've been here before, and you know it makes me wonder what's going on under the ground. Do you know? Don't you wonder? What's going on down under you? La da da, la da da, la da da da, la da da da, la. We have all been here before. We have all been here before. So maybe we haven't all been here before. Sadly, I guess if the spirit's theory is right, I've been murdered a lot. Nonetheless, we got weird. I promised you that. So, thanks for watching. Catch us next week where we'll go back in time and get weird some more. Have a weird and wonderful weekend.